Hi, all, and welcome to our next week of e-learning. I'm sure by now most of you have heard the news that we will not be returning to the classroom this year. Of course, that this is, not the best news. Of course, we want to be in the classroom, we want to be learning, but this is a very different situation, and I do think logically that this is the best move for Illinois to do in order to contain the spread of the virus. So what we have to do is we have to make what's best of the situation and really finish off these next 2 months strong with e-learning. So again, I'm going to keep reiterating this. That, this e-learning is really an opportunity for you to get your grades up, not only in my class and all your classes. As you continue to do the work, you should be seeing your grades going up. Now, one thing I will mention, and I told this to some students personally, but if you have missing assignments from stuff that we did before e-learning, that's a really, really good way of getting your grade moved up, okay? So what I would encourage you to do is to do these assignments, but when you have some time, do a few missing assignments, all right? And that way you can really get your grades up to an A or B. There really is no reason why you shouldn't have an A or a B in this class, especially an A at the end of this, at the end of the school year. Again, I hope you guys are doing well. I hope you guys are feeling safe. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me, and I will, answer any questions as they come along. What I want to talk about today is the plan for this week, and I will actually go over this first reading with you of what I'm going to be posting today in Google Classroom. Okay, so today is Monday. We're going to be working on a civil rights movement, so you're going to do an introduction page. There's a little I'll show you what happens in this introduction page. So we're going to do part of this together. I'm going to read some of this to you. So if you want that option of not having to read by yourself, I'll be reading this to you, and you will have some questions to answer at the end. If you want to read by yourself, of course, this is up to you. The second thing is we're just going to continue the intro to civil rights movement, which is parts 3 and 4. These are both readings. Again, tomorrow I will be posting another video of me reading this with you guys and discussing the option. On Wednesdays is the milestones of the civil rights movement. What we're actually going to plan is we're going to plan our first meeting. Okay, so I'm going to, at 10 p.m., we can have a virtual classroom set up. 10 a.m. Sorry, why am I thinking p.m. even though that probably would work better for you guys. But at 10 a.m., we will have a virtual classroom where I'll post a link in Google Classroom, and you will be able to go into Google Meet, and I will go over the PowerPoint, in the classroom. Now, if nobody shows up, that's fine. What I will end up doing is I will post another video of me going over the PowerPoint. Then on Thursday, there's actually going to be no work posted, no classes because of parent-teacher conferences, so you can use the day to relax, or if you want, you could use the day to make up work. And the last part is the podcast/documentary option. Basically, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be posting a podcast or a documentary. You're going to have a choice of, what you want to listen to or watch, a podcast or a documentary, and then you're going to have to fill out some questions about this documentary or podcast, okay? So that's the plan for this week. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to ask. Send them my way. I am available for office hours still. I'm going to post another office hours document where you are able to, sign up if you want to meet on Google Meets. All right. So now let's jump into today's assignment. So it's Introduction to Civil Rights Movement. Part one, you're going to do Civil Rights Movement Anticipation Guide. You're going to place an X in the box which matches your current opinion. So for instance, you're going to write the Civil Rights Movement was mostly about racial equality. And you're going to write if you completely agree, neutral, somewhat disagree, or completely disagree. For instance, from my opinion, civil rights movement was mostly about racial equality. I'm going to say I somewhat agree with that. So basically, what I do is I press next there, and then I move on to the next one. All right. Again, these are all your opinions, so please just feel free to answer this in the way you feel like. Okay. And maybe what will happen is by the end of this week, this will change, and maybe your opinions and knowledge will change. All right. Now we have part two. We're going to read America in the pre-civil rights movement, okay? And what I'll do is I'll read some of these laws, and then your job will be to answer the questions and submit this by the end of today, all right? So, part two, America pre-civil rights movement. Seattle, Washington, Lake City neighborhood restrictions. Okay, so Seattle's in the north, right? In Washington. It's not the south. It's not a place where slavery ever existed. No person of Japanese, Chinese, or any other Mongolian descent shall be allowed to purchase, own, or lease said real property or any part thereof. So people who came from Asia were not able to be allowed to purchase or own property, okay? Now, the reason why Seattle is on the west coast, right, which is much closer to Asia, and there had a lot of Asian immigrants on the west coast. The reason why Seattle had a law against Asian immigrants is because of the proximity to Asia and the fact that there were more Asian immigrants. Here's an Oregon law. Oregon's also on the west coast. All right. Hereafter, it shall not be lawful within the state for any white person, male or female, to intermarry with a Negro, Chinese, or any person having 1/4 or more Negro, Chinese, Kanaka blood, or any person having more than 1/2 Indian blood, and all such marriages or attempted marriages shall be absolutely null and void. So even if a person was, 3/4 white and 1/4 black, Chinese, or Kanaka is Japanese, that's what they're referring to, uh, they should not be able to marry to white people, right? So intermarriage was illegal, all right? So once again, West Coast, they are racist towards black people, right? Because they specifically say Negro people, but they're also racist towards Asian people, right? And saying white people should not intermarry with Asians. Okay, Los Angeles, California, also on the West Coast, also a state that did not have slavery. Latino students were expected to attend separate Mexican schools throughout the Southwest beginning into the 1870s. At first, the schools were set up to serve the children of Spanish-speaking laborers at rural ranches. Soon they spread into cities too. By the 1940s, as many as 80% of Latino children in places like Orange County, California, attended separate schools. Among them was Sylvia Mendez, a young girl who was turned away from all-white school in the county. Instead of going to a pristine, well-appointed 17th Street Elementary, she was told to attend Hoover Elementary, a dilapidated two-room shack. Okay, so Latino students were segregated in different schools. What we find out here at the end that the Latino schools were much, much worse than the schools that white students went to. Okay. So this is a similar practice that we discussed or that you might have learned about during the civil rights movement, but this is also not only African American students, but this is Mexican students in California, which was not part of the South. And now Mississippi law, which is Mississippi was a slave state, it is in the South. Okay, there shall be maintained by governing authorities of every hospital maintained by the state for treatment of white and colored patients, separate entrances for white and colored patients and visitors. And such entrances shall be used by the race only for which they are prepared. Okay, again, so separate entrances in a hospital. The way you walk into a hospital is going to be different. White people would usually be able to come in through the front, easier access. African Americans would have access, towards the back. There was things that separate hospitals, even not only entry. Some, there were hospitals were just for white people and just for black people. And as you probably would have guessed, the ones for African Americans were much worse than the ones for white people, right? It's kind of like the schools. So I think one common theme is what we see here is based on the geographic location of the state, is where it's the type of people that are being discriminated against, right? On the West Coast in Seattle, Oregon, see a lot of discrimination against Asian people just because there's much more Asian immigrants. In Los Angeles, it's against Mexican immigrants. Now, remember, California was originally part of Mexico, right? California, Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, all of those states and territories, Utah, they were all owned by Mexico. So there was a lot of Mexican people living there, right, even before the United States, won the Mexican American War. So there was a huge Mexican American population there, and these people were discriminated against, right? In the South, former slave state, right, there was a huge African American population, so there was going to be laws against African Americans then, all right? So what I want you to do is answer these two questions. What do you notice about the map and these laws? Please describe at least 3 observations/trends. So I kind of talked about a little bit of this, all right? So what you want to do is answer the question. And then the second question, did segregation only happen in southern states? Explain using specific details, right? These two questions, I believe, I kind of discussed here, so you should be able to answer these questions and get full credit for today's assignment. Okay, I'm going to end this video there. Thank you for watching and listening. As always, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me or sign up for office hours. All right, stay safe, stay healthy, and do your work when you can.